Good morning and welcome to the Great Transition Senior Living Seminar Series. We are talking today about going from we to me and also going from me to me. And we look forward to unpacking that with you. The Great Transition Senior Living Seminar Series is an educational series. We talk about legal, financial, home, health, all kinds of topics and areas of interest and importance to seniors. It is our goal to provide information to those who have helped us come along, and so we're here to be of service to the greatest generation, the silent generation, the baby boomers, and those people that care for them as well. You know, it can be, a lot of people come because they're making plans. They don't know what those plans look like. Sometimes those plans include a move. It can be 12 to 18 months or sometimes longer. Or an event can shorten that timeline. We see that happen a lot. And so we're here to provide you with the information you need to make the decisions that are best for you in your particular situation. One of the things we're very proud of, I referenced it a little bit earlier, we're not here to sell anything. We're just here to be a source of information for you, a resource for you. But we do always have some homework and some thought-provoking questions. Who's going to be tasked with making decisions for you when you are no longer able to do so? Will you agree with the decisions that they make? Oh, Cheryl and Chris. There's something going on here. Finally, if you've made your plan, have you shared your plan with the people that are going to carry out your plan, right? And so that's super important. So we're going to jump into our topic today. So as we were prepping for this topic, it can be a hard topic that we're talking about. And for me personally, my dad passed away in August, and I told my mother, and yesterday was the 12th anniversary of my husband's passing. And I told my mother when my dad passed, I learned how to be a widow after 20 years, but I got no clue how to be a widow after you've been married to somebody for 65 years. My parents had just celebrated their 65th wedding anniversary. So it's a big topic. We're not going to unpack all of it today. But we are going to talk about some things that may be a little challenging for some of us, may bring up some memories, may bring up some things that we need to think about. But we're here to support one another as we talk through these things. You know, we all have choices, and Mr. Henderson taught me a long time ago, people who don't have a plan, that is a plan, is just not a very good plan. So sticking our head in the sand is not the way we should go about making our plan, right? Being proactive, talking about these issues ahead of time makes it much easier to navigate it when we have to. There are two truths I want to share. Dying is the easy part of life. Losing those you love is the hard part. We can do things to help those we leave behind. We can be less of a burden to our loved ones after our passing by making a plan. And so many times we've heard from adult children both sides of that story. My parents made a plan and it made it really easy for me, or my parents didn't make a plan and it was really hard. It's impossible to know when that death is going to happen, right? If you're a married couple, we don't know who's going to go first, but we can be certain that one of us will. This can be hard as it isn't easy to think about losing your spouse, especially some of you that have been married for quite some time. I know we have in the room right now that there are those of you that have experienced the loss already, some more than once. And it's hard, but we get better through talking about it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're also going to talk about transitioning from your current self to your right-sized self or your downsized self. And it's important to know that there's grief associated with that as well. And so it's grief that we have to work through, because that's the only way to get through grief is to work through it. So with that being said, we're going to jump into our topic. I have brought today to you my dear friend, Michelle Patterson. We have known each other for over 25 years. Yeah, long time.
Counting, I think it's 30 years.
Okay, 30. I know she doesn't look old enough to have, you were just a student when I first met you. Yeah. And her family has been intertwined in the life of my family for many years. I'm super proud of Michelle. And I'm going to let you, I could gush, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us about your credentials.
Okay, and I'm going to gush about her. If you've seen Mary Poppins, you know there's Mary Poppins, and then there's the character of Bert, played by Dick Van Dyke. And he wore so many different hats. He was a chimney sweep, and then he was an artist, and then he was one-man. That's Beth through my life, although she's more the Mary Poppins. I'm probably more the Bert. But we've had different roles throughout our lives, and it's an honor to be here. One hat she's always worn is to be a light for others, and that hasn't changed. My name is Michelle Patterson, and I'm the Executive Director of Heart Peace Counseling Center. And so we love meeting with people and helping them process through losses in their lives, to find their way to hope and find their way to peace and purpose. Our mission is helping hearts find peace and purpose through Christ-centered counseling and coaching. So glad to be here and to talk about this important subject with you all.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. We're going to dive right in. So the lead on our seminar title is Going from We to Me. Let's talk about that first, and then we're going to talk about me to me. But what do people find most challenging going from we to me?
Well, I think a lot of you would be able to agree with this, that there was a dream with we, and there were plans, and there were hopes. And so when you go from we to me, all of a sudden those need to be grieved, and those are losses. And now what does it feel like to have a new dream? And is that even okay to have a new dream?
Yeah.
Some guilt can come with that as well.
Right.
There's new identity. There are now tasks that were divvied up. They're all on your shoulders. The division of labor, and all of a sudden there could be some isolation and loneliness.
Yeah. I sat with a gentleman and his son yesterday, and I asked him about his water heater in his house, because we're getting ready to get the house on the market. And he's like, I don't know. My wife handled all that, right? And she's gone now. So it is that division of like, oh, now I have to take responsibility for that. What about for someone that maybe has been single for always or a long time? They're, making a downsized move. Why is that hard?
That's hard too, because maybe you had, maybe you're moving to a different community. Maybe the things that you were kind of used to doing now, you're going to have to find different people to help, or you're going to have to find new resources. I remember I was going through a divorce, I think around the time, and Beth had suffered the loss of her husband. And one thing she said was, and I thought was great practical advice for anybody who's become single, is get a handyman. So you kind of remember that. So things like that you wouldn't normally think of. All of a sudden you're kind of thinking of, okay, I need to figure out how to do that.
Right.
And it's compounded because not only are you dealing with the emotions that come with the loss, now you're having to also move forward when you're not quite ready to in so many different ways. And that could be the same when you're transitioning, even as a single person, downsizing your home and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we how often do we hear, Nicole, I'm not ready? Yeah, right? How many of you are not ready yet? I bet you there's some of you that didn't raise your hand. Yeah. We talk about during this grief process, a lot of people are reporting that coping strategies can be weakened. It's harder to get through things when you're in the midst of this grief. Why is that? What can be done? How can we help or strengthen those coping strategies?
Right, exactly. So when you have a loss like this, it's so stressful, it's so taxing to the mind, body, and spirit that the stress response is activated. And so all of a sudden, your immune system is compromised. All of a sudden, you're tired, you're exhausted. There's no way around that. A lot of people might beat themselves up for being exhausted. There's no way around that. And so it also brings with it a brain fog that could happen. You're not going crazy. All of these are the ways your body's responding to losing someone so special, losing some normalcy in your life. And that can be, so a lot of times what we'll say to people is focus on the basics. Make sure you're sleeping, try to sleep, try to eat, remember to eat and hydrate. It could be so easy to forget those things and not realize, oh boy, I haven't gotten any fluids in my system all day.
Right. Yeah, it's, I think whether you're grieving the loss of someone that you love or grieving the loss maybe of what feels like the loss of independence, like if I'm moving from a house that I've maintained to a senior living community where they're gonna do everything for me, it's like there's grief at every stage there. And I think, I love what you said about the basics. Eat, good nutrition.
Yes, and watch your sleep.
Yeah.
And if you can, cut things out of the schedule that aren't completely necessary. And you're so right about a lot of the losses. One of the losses could be driving. Lots of driving.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're not able to drive, and that represented so much to you. Just so many different aspects of life to grieve.
Yeah, I know when my dad went on oxygen 24 hours a day, that was a loss that he had to navigate and was really hard because it's like all of a sudden I'm chained to this tube kind of thing. So, okay. Let's talk about the couple that loses one of the spouses is gone. How do people best manage time alone?
I'd say that's the biggest challenge. And it depends on the person, of course. But a lot of times they have to make themselves schedule some things, find out what time of day it seems to be hardest for you. For a lot of people, I'd say most people, it's nighttime. So maybe schedule some dinners with friends or neighbors, or have some family come over. Now, this can be hard to do right after the loss, but we'll talk about some tips for loved ones. But try, if you can, to reach out to people and build that support system, and try to fill your time at first with people, even when you don't want to. And let them know, I can't guarantee how I'm going to show up, but I just need to not be alone. And sometimes they just don't want to talk. Maybe you might not want to talk at the time, or maybe you want to rest, or you just don't want someone there while you're resting. Having those kind of
just a presence, because
yes.
I think for a lot of people, maybe they've been a caregiver, and that has required so much, and all of a sudden, that just stops.
We see that all the time. And not only that, when that stops, not only was that a purpose and a role, but now their body catches up. And now not only do they have that grief exhaustion, their body, can finally get their attention, and now they have their own aches and pains that they haven't taken care of, or maybe they're finally going to the dentist themselves, or they're finally doing these things. And so there's a lot of catch up for the caregivers. There's very special caregivers that are given so much, and it can feel lonely too after.
Could that take months and months?
It could take years. Yes, months to years.
Okay. So give yourself some grace.
And embrace the pace.
Love that. Write that down. Embrace the pace,
Give
right?
yourself grace and embrace the pace. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. Okay.
There's some gifts in this. It's not all doom and gloom. Of course, it's sad. That's the nature of loss. If it wasn't sad, it wouldn't be a loss. But there are so many unexpected opportunities and gifts in this. You start to find out what's important to you. You start to really connect with people in a real way with less fluff. You know, you're going to talk about the things that really matter. And as counselors, we don't like small talk. So, but when you're going through a loss, you probably don't like small talk much either. And so things do get kind of deep, and you kind of are wanting to talk about deep things. Or you're wanting normalcy. You know, let's just come over and play a game, Monopoly even. Or maybe a shorter game. I like maybe Boggle. That's
Got it. I was thinking about something, but I'll have to come back to that because it escaped me for a second. We've talked in a previous seminar how a lot of Americans tie their identity to where they live. We had a client that had a beautiful home, very large, lots of entertaining, and that was their life, but it was getting to be an awful lot. What's the best way to transition me in my current home, or maybe I'm single and I've been managing this house just fine all these years. For me, I have all the men in my life, my handyman, my yard man, my pest control man, all of those fellas. But what's the best way to handle me as the homeowner? I'm running the show to now maybe I'm living in a senior living community where I don't have to cook. They do my housekeeping once a week. They're even washing my sheets and towels. And I have like free time.
Right. And you'll have a handout, and there's a little picture of a house. So I kind of wanted to do the long way to answer that. Is in my faith history, there's a thing where they'll say that the temple's not a building, it's yourself. So I wanted to use that for you all. The house becomes not a house, it becomes you are the house for your soul. And now you get to look at, and I have some questions on the sheet that could be some reflection questions. What do you value most? What do you value? What do you bring? There's only one you. And you are walking, living house embodiment of all that is you. The things that you love, your sense of humor, or maybe you're quite serious. Whatever those things are, your hobbies, your strengths, your ability to love, those things can't be contained in a house. Of course, we miss those big houses and different things, but we don't miss the cleaning. And now it's allowed for more time for some other things. I had one friend, she had been very active. She was a dance coach, and all of a sudden it hit her all at once. At a certain age, she just wasn't as active, and that was a loss to kind of know I can barely walk. I have to work to walk, and so she downsized to be able to prioritize her health, and then enjoy some of the facilities there, and to be involved and do some things you may not have had time to do before. So there again, there's an opportunity.
So it enriched her life to deal with the downsizing process, and she was able to get back to doing some of the things she loved?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, and some of the things she needed in that season, not getting bogged down. You mentioned you probably had some talks on clutter, and there's scientific evidence that when we have clutter, we don't focus as much. It's, we have things. And so without all this extra clutter, maybe the clutter was the house and the cleaning and the this and that, you can focus on what really matters and clear away the extra that's not where you're going. You got to know where you're going and what your priority is for this next season. For some people, it's a purpose of family. I want to be able to visit family more. For some people, maybe it's a hobby they've never been able to do, or maybe writing their memoirs or something like that, or want to paint. or to just have fun. Maybe you have been a caregiver all your life. I just want to play. Can we just play? Let's find a place that has a lot of fun and playing. Let's play. Maybe you're going to join the local theater. There's so many opportunities, but you have to kind of take a minute and decide, what is my focus going to be? Or is it my health? To just enjoy the moment. You know, those little things, enjoy nature and be, to just love.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. We had a client that moved to one of the communities, and when she moved in, she was having to use a cane to navigate her way around, and I went to visit her, and I've probably told this story before because it just really resonated with me. I said to her, where's your cane? Don't you need it? And she said, no, the doctor said I'm good. I've been going to balance class. I'm active in certain activities, and it allowed her to work on her without the burdens of home ownership and all the things she was trying to navigate, and the space that was very cluttered, which just takes up space.
Yes, that's such a great point. And also a focus from externally, what's outside of ourselves that gives us worth. You know, the car, the hot rod, that would be my piece in Monopoly. Or, you know, different things. But now it's more of an internal. Well, wait a minute. Where is my significance? Right. What are the things that bring my life joy? Those things don't matter as much. Those things aren't making me laugh. Those things aren't visiting me. And you start to realize, oh, wait a minute. Who have I been living for? You know, who am I trying to please? Versus who can I now connect with? Connection becomes more important than in trying to keep up. And so it's an internal, almost like a coming home to yourself. You're going to leave home, but you're going to come home to yourself. It's a beautiful thing. Or even time for spiritual renewal, different things.
I think this has totally changed my understanding of real estate, like as a house or real estate, that house that lives in me. This is so good. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so a single person, let's say they've been living in their house, used to solitude, maybe. We know that isolation is not healthy, and yet they may move to a new community, senior living community. So if you've been living in your own house, in your own space, and doing whatever you want in your house for that time, and you move to a place, Gladys, how many apartments do you have at the Mayflower, roughly? Put you on the spot. 300. Brittany, how many do you have at Allegro?
158.
Okay. Watercrest, it's Tracy? I can't see you. Okay. Alex, what do you think?
Probably close to 500.
Close to 500. That could be a little overwhelming if you have been in your castle by yourself, right? How do you avoid feeling isolated in this big place, especially if you're an introvert? Any introverts in the room? Will you even raise your hand? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great. My people. So the best thing to do is you can join something that's more focused than communication, small talk, social. So a lot of times there are, maybe you could go find something that you have in common with someone. There's the Red Hat groups where they have lunch together. There's maybe like chess clubs, or there's some different types of activities that you can do. I'm blanking out on them now. Pickleball, that seems a little active.
Well, art.
Watercolor classes, that's right.
Or an exercise like a yoga practice. I had a yoga
Yoga.
teacher one time that said, it's your practice on your mat, don't focus on anybody else. Like,
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that can be really, that way you're with people, but you're not having to engage or do that eye contact. And so little by little, you also can observe people. Introverts, we like to observe before we get overtaken. So you can kind of see who you feel comfortable with. And the other thing is, too, if you're really shy, just kind of hang out somewhere and wait till an extrovert adopts you. Extroverts will adopt introverts.
I will say the communities, most of them have an ambassador type program where they have people on the lookout for new residents and they'll rope
Yeah.
you in. We'll get to some questions in just a
What
minute,
about
Carr.
clicks?
We'll get to your questions in just a minute, yeah. And with anything, when you were younger and you moved into your first apartment or you went away to college in the dorm, you had to kind of navigate that communal space. And so it's just a matter of finding your people, other
Yes.
introverts or that one extrovert that will bring you along and help you out, yeah. So we're up against Thanksgiving. Many of us, we talked about Thanksgiving as you were arriving, and Christmas and Hanukkah. They're all right around the corner. Kwanzaa, I think I covered them all. These November and December holidays. How are we to get through those? I know there are programs like Grief Share, different types of programs that can help us. How do we get plugged into those? How do we look for them? And how do we get through the holidays?
Right. Well, first, to get through the holidays, it's a good idea to have a plan before the date. So to make sure you don't wait till the date. Now, we do understand that sometimes you don't know if you're going to feel up to it. But I would say go ahead and schedule something, because then you can always say yes or no. And again, like we said, have that conversation. I don't know how which me is going to show up, and I don't know. I had one client, she had to make sure, what if I cry? She wasn't used to crying in front of people. And so she talked to the homeowner, family member, if there was a space she could go and cry privately if she needed to. But there are places that have surviving the holiday seminars. There is Grief Share, which is a support for anyone who's lost any loved one. It is a Christian-based program, but they are open to all faiths. And then there is also and I'll have this resource in your handout, Florida Hospice has some open to anyone, even if you're not using their services type resources that have managing the holidays. The websites as well have tips for you, things you can do. This is, if anyone has a dark humor, so this is for you. I had a client that she just didn't want to deal with the holidays, so she and a friend watched disaster movies the whole weekend. Now, that's not it for everybody, but you can decide what you want. And then some will get more involved, maybe volunteer more at church. And I had another one, it reminded her too much of her husband. And so, but she did something else with the volunteer organization that had more that kind of authentic community that she needed. So it's really a lot is individualized, but we'll give you a lot of different ideas you can pick and choose from.
So make a plan.
Make up plans,
Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, and I think what I also love is it could change if, the people that you care about will understand and help you through it. I love that
Yes.
the one lady was provided a place where she, even if she didn't use it, she knew she could go just have a moment if she needed to.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because there's so many triggers in the holidays especially, I think.
And for the extroverts, they don't want to be alone at all. So even having like a Velcro plan, who's going to be Velcro to you for that whole, maybe even the week, and they can have a sign up sheet. That's a little silly, but to make sure there's someone there,
I love that.
that could be with
I
you.
love that. Is it normal to grieve a former version of yourself?
Yes. So a lot of times you can find yourself at a point you never really thought about it, but maybe you're like, well, I've never had kids, or I was never married, or I didn't do what the dreams I had. I had one client, a male, he'd never done a career dream, and so that he'd had, and he's at the end of life. But as we talked and shared, he found that he always prioritized his family. And so he was able to realize, wow, I left a legacy. It might not be the career I wanted, but for my son. and for, so it's a time to really look at these things and again, let go of anything, that does not serve you anymore. Like, there's a certain point, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna have kids, so now what? Let's embrace, wow, there's things I can do now. Or maybe you've decided, I really don't want to remarry. Okay, what can I do? Let me get a group of friends that maybe I could travel with or play games with or do puzzles with. There are so many ways to move forward, but in order to move forward, you have to let go. And there's a Dr. Archibald Hart says the purpose of depression is to bring you to a place of letting go. So a lot of times that letting go, it's not fun, but it makes room. It makes room for something new. It makes room for clarity and defined values that can really guide you.
Gotcha. Depression can be good.
Yes, it can be. There's a purpose to it.
Okay. How can we support someone who's grieving their spouse or maybe grappling with the decision? I'm thinking of someone we worked with who had made the decision to move to senior living, and her friends were all like, why are you doing that? You're too young to do that. And so she's in this struggle. How can we support someone in grief? And the typical response, I think, from a lot of people, because I've heard it myself, let me know if I can do anything for you, but that's kind of vague.
Yes, that is. My cousin recently lost her husband, and that was a big thing. She was saying, just show up. She had friends that would order like delivery from Publix ice cream, just a bunch of ice cream at her door, or do different things. But what I would say, if you know someone who's lost someone, you could kidnap them. So a depressed person, it's always a good idea to kind of just do it. Don't wait for them to feel like it. So you just kind of, but of course legally, we aren't, disclaimer, if they really say no, you can't actually take them. But and the other thing is, I had another client, her brother and wife were going to go out to lunch, and so they gave her about 2-hour warning and just said, hey, we're thinking about going to lunch, would you like to go with us? Kind of make it casual kind of thing. If you have certain gifts, if you love to pack and organize, I have met people, they love to move, that's their hobby. It's very rare, but
Anybody here?
You could offer to do that for someone, or to clean for them, or hire a service or something, to just jump in and don't worry about being wrong. And also don't worry about the scowl on their face or the mood, because that is just how they're feeling right now. But I can tell you from being on the other side, they feel so lonely and they wish someone would text and call. And if they are introverted, they are going to wait for someone else to do it. So go ahead and text them. Go ahead and call them. And maybe it's a time when they actually didn't need someone, or maybe it's a time they do, and just take the chance you're going to be off on your timing, and that be okay. And let them know, this is what I was thinking about you, and I'd love for you to do this with me, or ask them for help, so they don't feel like they're a charity case or something. No one wants to feel like that.
Yeah. Well, and like sending someone a text message or making a phone call and leaving a voice message, they can get back to you in their time, but you've made the effort. And I think so often, I don't know about y'all, but I'm like, oh, I'll do that later, or I don't want to bother them because I know they're sad and I don't want to make them more sad. But if you do it in such a way that they can respond or not.
That's right. It gives them the option.
Yeah.
And you can also have a code, because I had one client she would be like, hey, how are you doing? And that was her code for, like, I'm in crisis. Like I don't think they know that's what you're saying. So you kind of have some kind of code with your family when you really need them versus when you're just kind of saying hi. And so you could kind of do that for them as well, and say, text them and say, hey, I'm up for a call if you want to call today, or if you'd rather just have a text. And kind of maybe when you're with them, maybe taking a walk with them or something, just say, hey, if you ever have one of those, down times and just want a safe person talk to, could we have a way of communicating that? I'd love to be there for you. Because sometimes that can hit, and it can hit over the holidays too,
Yeah.
you know.
And a lot over the holidays. I think, because everything is supposed to be joyful and happy, right?
Right.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. Married couple, we have several in the audience today, probably have a few watching online right now. What can a married couple do to prepare for the death of one of the spouses?
I think what we could talk about practical. So we could talk about that division of labor. So what are things, first of all, to communicate. Sometimes couples don't want to talk about it. You know, maybe they're afraid, kind of have a little bit of superstition. If you talk about it, it's going to happen. You know, I mean, if your spouse has the shovel in the back seat and the thing, okay, get worried about that. But we're not talking, like, but just to have the conversation. And then the division of labor, but maybe one of you does the budget, one of you does the cleaning, one of you does, and kind of talk about what are the numbers and how would you do this and what is your favorite recipe and just some different things and what would I do if we needed a plumber or just kind of those basics so the other one isn't completely devastated because this other person did everything for them.
When I was 47, my husband and I we were both 47 when he passed away, and a month before he died, we were renewing our life insurance policies, and we had a conversation, and it was like, he said, okay, if something happens to me, you do this, 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 and this, and if something happens to you, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And that, it wasn't a huge list, but there were some really important things on there that when he died, in the moment of that sadness, there was this thought in my head, okay, I know I have to do this, 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 and this. Because we had talked about it with no intention of what would have happened, right? And so I think what you're saying is if one does the books and pays all the bills, I was talking to a friend last night, and one of our mutual friends, she does all the book work in the house, and she made a binder. We talk about making a go book a lot for our family, but it's like our internet is through Spectrum. Here's who you call, like, because he would have no clue. And he wrote all the things down about the paint color is X, Y, and Z or whatever, because he took care of the house stuff, so.
That's great. And that was a big gift that Daryl gave you.
Mhm.
And even for single people too, I made sure I had my will and wrote out those things because you don't know, or if you have a business or something like that, you want to make sure, you know, what are people going to do with these things or your pets? What are they going to do with your pets? But right, it's a great idea to go over those things. Then you both feel kind of more empowered and more secure in that way if the worst was to happen.
Yeah. So let's expound on a single person. You know, we're preparing for, maybe they're preparing for an upcoming change, going from managing that house and being on all those boards or teaching all those classes or having that job or career and still being identified with that. Sometimes people will maybe retire from the career, but now they're a consultant for that industry or whatever. How do they navigate that grief and loss? What are some practical things there?
That's so true. I had a nurse manager friend had such a high position working with people all the time, and now to kind of be in a season of retirement and this and that, and had this big void of wanting to help people, but not to the point, you know, not beyond what they had capacity for. And so a lot of it is being involved, like maybe with community group, Rotary Club, church group, any kind of organization that supports its members where you can have that community and support other people. Volunteer. There are so many different ways to volunteer for important causes. I would just say, just know ahead of time what your boundaries are, how much you can volunteer. That way, a lot of times it's all or nothing. We start volunteering, get overwhelmed, I'm never going to volunteer again. Instead of just saying, this is what I can offer. I can offer 2 hours a week and that kind of thing.
I was talking to a friend who, she retired from an extremely high level job with a very high security clearance level. And she's volunteering now, and one of the organizations wanted her to come in like 3 days a week, and she's like, nope. Because I'm doing all these other things, I can give you 4 hours on a Tuesday, kind of thing. So she was able to do those boundaries and still feel very purposeful in her life.
No, that's excellent. And the other thing is, I mean, there's tremendous experience and knowledge in this room. And so we know, like, as you're letting go of some things, there's a season that's a wonderful season. Like where they say the youth is wasted on the young. You have wisdom and knowledge. We have, all this that, and we can experience life at a truly deeper, meaningful level. And so a lot of times there's consulting that you can do. I knew a woman that she was in architecture, so she could consult for the local school that was maybe a nonprofit school, private school or something. So there's things you can do. The world needs you. They need your wisdom. They need what you have to offer. They need your experience. And so, yeah, you might not be rollerblading, but you have something to offer. And it's so important. And then for the singles, and a lot of it's just the hustle and bustle and kind of just feeling important and being important. And so you can find that importance in a smaller community, and you're still important because if you're here, you have a purpose.
Yeah.
And you're important.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for letting me come.
We're going to open up to some questions. Now, we all have stories and anecdotes. You've heard a few today, but we're going to try to keep this as questions. Y'all remember Peanuts when Lucy would get in her little box and say the doctor is in? Well, not quite a doctor, but we've got our therapist here so we can ask some questions. Do our EPs have microphones? Somebody? Yeah, you want to turn them on because what we're going to do now is, does anybody have a question?
Yeah, Carl wants to know what about.
Okay, so hold on just a second. Let's bring a microphone to Carl. Can we get a microphone to Carl, please? All right, what's your question, Carl?
Well, I happen to be in an assisted living facility. You didn't touch anything on clicks in the place.
Okay.
There's 300 people in there. When you walk in there, you have to be faced with that.
Okay.
How do you go and face that?
Okay, well, I'm going to say a couple things. So Carl lives in assisted living community, right? Not facility, because facility sounds yucky.
I'm sorry. Thank you for defining it.
Okay. It's a community, because I don't want to live in a facility. I'm moving to a community, I can tell you that.
I also say it's an asylum.
No, I don't think so. Well, we have some people in the back of the room that you might want to talk to. And so, moving into a new place, lots of apartments. We learned everywhere from 100 and some to close to 500 apartments. That can be a little overwhelming. There's always going to be cliques.
I think it's a great question. There's a couple ways to look at it. There are some people that are already connected, like those Lego, and you'll have those friends. But here's a way to get around that. You start your own club. You start your own group. That's good for introverts as well. It's called the Dog and Pony Show. The introverts can be very good at creating their own environment. They can have more of a sense of control. Whether that's just like a dinner night or a game night, and you make it the culture you want it to be. Do you want it to be fun? Do you want it to be informative? Do you want it? And to me, that's the way to own it. Let's own it, because yes, it can feel. A lot of people mention that you're going into a new situation. People have known each other for years and years and years, but you make your own way. You make your own. Maybe you have something in common with them. Or talk to administration and see if there could be something mentioned about that.
I love that. Yeah, well, and I think our communities that are here today, what I see when I visit Westminster and Mayflower and Allegro and Watercrest and Village on the Green is they do work hard at having people reach out and try to get people plugged in. It doesn't always work because they're humans, right? But I think efforts are being made in some of the communities at least, to be inclusive and bring people. But I love the idea of start it yourself.
Yeah, you don't seem like a follower anyway, Carl. I think plenty of people here would join your group.
Elaine has a question, if somebody can get her the microphone.
Actually, I have a comment on what you were just talking about. So, when you move in, sometimes there are cliques, but cliques don't last forever because their situation can change as well. You know, and that clique starts to kind of fall apart, like some people die, some people move to a different stage of life. And so the people that are left sometimes need you to reach out to them because their world is changing now and they don't know how to react to that too. So you have a role to play sometimes in those cliques as well.
Love
That's a
that.
great comment.
Did everybody hear what she said? You have a role to play. The cliques change over time because we change over time, right? The people that you're hanging out with now are probably not the people you were necessarily hanging out with 10, 15, 20 years ago. I heard Dave Ramsey said one time, like the people in your wedding that stood up for you in your wedding, do you even know where they live now? Right? So life changes and you can find new connections.
That's a great point. And to open up your expectations. I had a client, she was never close to her sister, and all of a sudden now, having lost her husband and lost her best friend, she's close to her sister, and she just couldn't wrap her mind around the fact that sometimes there's going to be different people that show up for you differently in different seasons. And you might show up differently for others too. And there's always that thing of joining different task groups, so you could kind of get to know other people in that way as well.
Love that. Any other questions? Well, Michelle has her handout up here, so we can make sure that everybody gets one of those as they are leaving. And with that, we'll get wrapped up. Did we try to sell you anything? But the question is always, what are you going to learn, or what are you going to do with the information that you got today? So for some of you who've already put together your plan and put a bow on it and it's ready, maybe you just need to tweak it a little bit, or maybe you need a plan B just in case it doesn't all fall into place that way. For some of you, I know for me, I need to do a better job of picking up the phone and calling people when I think about them, because maybe this is the season where they may be needing something, right? So just jot a note to yourself on your seminar notes page, an action step that you're going to take as a result of what you learned. We do want you to enjoy the next several weeks being on holiday. We will not see you until next year. I don't know about you, but I can't believe it's 2026 next year. Wow, that happens so fast. But you can go ahead and register for the January 8th seminar on your blue form. Just be sure today we're going to get names on every piece of paper that comes in. So write your name on your blue sheet. Inevitably, we get one. Sometimes we can decipher your handwriting, though. We're getting to know y'all. And bring a friend next time so you can be entered into the drawing. So we'll be talking about, remember, understanding Medicare. That is super broad. We're going to try to tie it down and make it a little bit easier to understand. And we always have a quote. Today's quote comes from Helen Keller. Just thinking about her, I'm amazed at how she was able to function. But this is really good. What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes a part of us in that house, right? The house that we take with us. So thank you for coming, and we will see you next year.